Hey guys, this is Savjz here, and on this video I want to talk a little bit about the League of Explorers and how it all panned out, what cards end up making a splash, and maybe some special mentions to those that didn't do so well. So I wanted to make a top 10 list, and here we go.
Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Want to come and join us? Oh, yes!
To start things off, my number 10 for League of Explorers turned out to be Elise Starseeker. A little bit surprising maybe to some. That card, how good is it? When does it really work? Where does it work? Well, there's two deck lists where you can play the card, in my opinion, where it functions alright, and those are Priest and Warrior, because in those decks the games actually go long enough that you might get to fatigue stages, and I think those two are the only ones where you can justify playing the card. In those decks, especially when they line up against each other, if you play against another Control Warrior, for example, or another Control Priest, having an Elise in your deck can make a huge splash with the Golden Monkey. And what exactly you do with the Golden Monkey is that you turn your bad cards, bad late game cards, into legendaries in the late game. So for example, cards like Acolyte of Pain, Powered Shield, maybe Circle of Healing, all those like spells that no longer have a use. And sometimes you get bad legendaries, but more often you get something that's at least playable. So in those fatigue kind of wars, Elise can be the difference between who's going to win the match. And the stat line of 3-5 is somewhat playable in those decks right now, because there's not that much aggro aside from Paladins. And against Paladin, maybe you would want to have a different 4-drop, but the Hunters are gone, so you don't necessarily have to play something like Sentient Shieldmaster. So Elise Starseeker, kind of playable in those two decks. I wouldn't get too excited about it. Still, because there are those Paladins around, it might struggle a little bit and just not be strong enough, and maybe it doesn't get to kick in with this effect quite often enough. At number 9, you have Anything Can Happen. A little bit surprising card. Also, this is a second like a surprise pick maybe on the list, but Anything Can Happen has enabled a strategy for Paladins where you play 2 Bluegills, 2 War Leaders, and the old Murkai, and do the OTK combo. So in the later stages of the game where you can just kill your opponent with that card alone. Maybe not on the first Anything, but the second one is guaranteed to flood the board completely, and that should usually add up to enough damage to end the game, and we've seen a lot of players do quite well with it, hitting Legend, even getting decent Legend ranks with it at some stages. It doesn't feel like it's quite there, so maybe it's not competitive. Like in tournaments, maybe you don't want to play this deck, but it's a really interesting card, and I think that once the deck lists are refined, it's if not competitive, it's going to be really close. So really cool card, and I'm happy that we got it with the expansion. At number 8 we have Tomb Pillager. Tomb Pillager is a rogue card and quite a powerful one. After people started experimenting with it, we even saw the old Auctioneer rogues make a little bit of a comeback. Still not the most popular version, and people tend to stick to the older oil lists over the Auctioneer versions. But perfectly viable card, and it can do a lot of work even in an oil list. The thing about that card and why it's not number 1 or anything like that is that there's some other good 4-drops also. So you can't really play 2 Pillagers, 2 Violet Teachers, and 2 Pilot the Shredder. So if you add a Tomb Pillager, you're gonna have to cut another good 4-mana card. But a Tomb Pillager, definitely a great card, and especially if the Auctioneer rogues somehow get even stronger in the future. This is definitely an auto-include in any rogue list with an Auctioneer. So great card overall, number 8. At number 7 we have Keeper of Uldaman. Paladin 4-mana card. Well, 4 mana, not the perfect thing for Paladins, because also a lot of other cards happen to be 4 mana, like Blessing of Kings, True Silver Champion, Consecration. There's so many 4 mana cards already, and even the Murloc card is also 4 mana, so there's a lot of competition for that. But Keeper of Uldaman is just so flexible. It's incredible. You can play it in almost any Paladin deck, and it can work out well. You can use it on your opponent's minion, to use it as a kind of removal on a big minion,
or you can just use it as a more like a Houndmaster effect on your maybe 1/1 or something with Divine Shield or Creeper. It can work out quite well, and for 4 mana getting a 3/4 and the +2/+2 on a 1/1 for example, that's a lot of value. It definitely works in your favor. You get a 5 power and 6 toughness for mana. That's great, and having the option to also remove something big from your opponent is a really awesome thing to have access to. So Creeper Full Demand, great card. I think we're gonna see a lot of it here and there. I think the card is going to last for a long time. We're gonna see it in different lists. Maybe somewhere it's going to be only one-off, but you can play it in faster and slower Paladin decks. At number 6 we have Brand Bronzebeard. Brand Bronzebeard doubling up the battle cries. Great card in all sorts of combo decks where you have a lot of battle cries. 2/4 for 3 mana, not too bad either. 4 toughness for a 3-drop is not bad at all. It's a little bit interesting. Sometimes you can't really squeeze all that much value out of it. It does require some cards for synergy, and you might not draw the cards at the same time, or you might not have the mana to play them on the same turn. Maybe your opponent is ahead on the board and already has a minion that can possibly kill the Brand. But the Brand just offers some great tools, especially when more Battlecry minions will get introduced. I think it's going to be great, and right now maybe not seeing that much outside of Warlock decks because of Dark Peddlers, but I think that the card is going to be something that you have to always think about when playing Battlecry minions, especially if you're playing a lot of them. Like, should I build Brand in my deck? How much work could it possibly do? It's a card that you need to keep in the back of your mind when building a deck with Battlecry. At number 5, you have Museum Curator. Okay, 2 mana, 1/2. Is it really that impactful? Well, I think that the card, like the biggest thing about it is that it fits the Priest deck so well. Because Priest hero power on turn 2 is usually kind of useless, so it's a terrible thing to hero power on turn 2, and the 2 toughness keeps it safe from mage hero power, keeps it safe from rogue hero power. And depending on the game state, if it's a turn 2 that you played on, you can pick a 3-drop. There's a lot of great 3-drops, like you can also get a Dark Cultist to secure a nice curve. Even a Deathlord works quite well. There's a lot of great cards, so you can secure a nice curve with it in the early game, or in the late game you can just pick a card with high value, for example like Sylvanas Windrunner, Sneed Soul Shredder, Piloted Sky Golem. Getting a Shredder, like a Piloted Shredder, also not too bad. Piloted Sky Golem, Piloted Shredder, those are just overall high value cards. Those are great cards. So Museum Curator filling in a weakness of Priest, in my opinion, in that turn 2 where you really don't want a hero power. At number 4 we have Entomb, the new Priest removal. Perfect fit for the Priest as a class. Priest with the healing hero power tends to go for late game strategies. Most of the decks go for those slower approaches to the game and kind of go late, because you obviously it doesn't accomplish the same thing as a Hunter hero power does, which puts your opponent on a clock where you just deal that 2 damage. Doesn't work like that. The Priest is more focused on controlling the board and going for that value. So Entomb, not only does it remove the biggest threat from your opponent, it also adds 1 to your deck. So if you are at 6 mana and you use it, you are going to, if you draw the card immediately afterwards, you are going to have the mana to cast it already. So it doesn't just deal with the threat, but it also adds a good top deck into your deck, which especially if you're going to fatigue stages, is going to be amazing. Great card, and in the Control Priest, I think at least running 1 is going to be stable. Maybe even 2. At number 3 we have Dark Peddler. Oh man, one of the most flexible cards, certainly, out of the class cards here. It's just, how do you not play this card? There's so many things you can get out of it. The best ones usually are like Mortal Coil, Abusive Sergeant, Soulfire, Powerwhelming. Like those are the best cards. But situationally, you can even pick a 1-drop. Or sometimes you are forced to picking 1-drop. But Hungry Crab can kill the enemy Murloc and get a buff. And a lot of the other 1-drops also not that bad. If you play Peddler on turn 2, next turn you can go life tap and just play the 1-drop, whatever it is, even if it's not like the greatest thing ever. It's a lot of value for 2 mana. Also, in Warlock combo decks, you might want to play Brand Bronzebeard with it, which makes it even stronger. getting those extra power overwhelmings for your Arcane Golem Faceless combo, getting that extra Soulfire for your Malugas. It's quite amazing. Dark Peddler, great card in slow Warlock, great card in fast Warlock. Getting those buffs, it's just I don't know how would you not play this card in a Warlock. At number 2 we have Tunnel Trog. Tunnel Trog is the new Shaman 1-drop. It gets buffed by any Overload effects. When it first came out, we saw a lot of like aggressive Shaman lists with double Doom Hammers get popular, going for face aggressively, drawing cards, using those burn spells. Tunnel Trog perfectly fitting there, having the 3 toughness 1-drop, which can get buffed by on turn 2 by the Totem Golem or other things. Maybe if you crackle your opponent's minion, that also buffs it. If it survives another turn, maybe you can, or in the later game, maybe you can play like Feral Spirits with it. Just like for 1 mana minion, for Shaman, like it's simply amazing. Like if it was a 2/3, that would be like a zombie chow without a drawback. If it was 1/4, it would be the first 4 toughness minion in the entire game. So at 1/3, like great stats and great ability. There's a lot of overload cards that you just kind of have to play in Shaman. Unfortunately, Shaman right now, outside of that aggressive list, is not doing as well. But for the future, if Shaman ever becomes a thing, you quite often want to play the Tunnel Trogs for sure. Because there are many overload effects and Totem Golems. It's a great one-shot. At number 1, we have none other than Reno Jackson himself. Out of those gimmicky cards, so to say, like Elise, Starseeker, anything can happen, and those cards that create completely new strategies, Reno Jackson is the one that truly had a breakout in a way that it's in my books it's perfectly competitive. I think Reno Warlock is one of the best decks out there right now. I would put it in top 3 for sure. Extremely powerful, heals you back up from the damage that you've taken from things like life tap. Also, having the life tap to draw those extra cards makes it more reliant that you will actually draw it at some point. Because if you're playing a different deck, you don't have the same card drawing power. And having a Reno in your deck, there's quite a high chance that you might not even see it. Ever. And there's also in Warlock there's synergy with Molten Giant. You might go Molten Giant into Reno Jackson on like turn 8 or turn 9. You can quite easily like manipulate your own life total in a way where you just like life tap and Molten, and or maybe even with the Hellfire, you can sometimes you can lower your HP to be low enough to set up for a Molten Reno for the following turn, where you see like, okay, my opponent has like this and this much power on the board. So and you can counter even if they have the best buff cards or Charger, like how much can they deal, and you might be able to tap, set up a Molten Reno turn for the next turn without even worrying about dying. It's just so powerful. Reno Jackson, great card. A lot of people have been experimenting with it in other classes too. But it's not as successful as in Warlock, and I would never expect anybody to come up with a Reno deck list in other classes that would be better than the Warlock ones. I find it extremely likely. Reno Jackson, awesome card, rewards creative deck building, allows for cool new strategies. Very powerful, dropping that against the aggro deck usually wins you the game. Some special mentions in the end here for some cards that I think that are either very good or might be really good in the future. One of them is Unearthed Raptor, which is the rogue 3 mana 3/4 battlecry. Choose a friendly minion, gain copy of its death rattle effect. The stat line of 3/4 and 3-drop is simply amazing, and the battlecry also quite powerful. But right now it's not finding its place so well, because you don't really want to put any or many death rattle cards in a rogue. It doesn't seem to quite support the playstyle of rogue. So that's the problem with that card. That's why it did not make the list. But in the future, I could possibly see the Raptor making a splash if some great rogue death rattle cards come out. Another mention goes out to Excavated Evil, because having played that card quite a bit, it functions very similarly as Holy Nova, and it doesn't heal, but instead it deals 1 more damage. The 1 extra damage compared to Holy Nova has been quite impactful in many games, I've noticed. And the lack of heal, while Holy Nova healing, it's a great thing. It requires a little bit more of a setup, like you kind of have to have a minion that's already like damaged for it to be, for Holy Nova to be better than Excavated Evil. And shuffling the card into your opponent's deck is usually an upside. You want your opponent to have the Excavated Evil in their deck, because drawing that is going to be weaker against you than drawing a different card that supports their own strategy. So Excavated Evil, it's still a little bit tough to tell how good exactly it is, but it's an alright card. Third special mention goes out to Reliquary Seeker, which is the 1 mana 1/1 for Warlocks. Gets a huge buff when if it's the last minion that you put on your board. If it's the 7th minion that you add to the board, in which case it's really big. And in Warlock with Implosions, it's not that uncommon that you get to set up a Reliquary Seeker with a full board. So it can be extremely powerful, but it does require that board, and to get that board, you have to be playing more of an aggressive style. In a control Warlock, you don't that rarely or that often have 6 minions on the board, so it goes into the aggressive styles, but it's not very good for the curve. And in Zoo Warlocks and aggressive Warlocks, you just you really want to be curving out nicely, having a good turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. You want to have powerful turns every turn, and having a Reliquary Seeker in your starting hand, for example, it's not that great. So it might hurt that a little bit. But it's still a very powerful card. Hobgoblin decks can support it. Just a great card, but it seems a little bit off. And that really rounds up my list. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And let's hope that the next expansion is going to be as awesome as this one was.
Everyone, get in here! Adventure we seek, cross land and sea.